There's something delightfully strange about this stretch of April. On paper, it should feel like spring has finally taken hold. The air is a little kinder. The days are longer. The world is supposed to be thawing out. And yet, horror keeps using this week to remind us that warm weather does not mean safe weather. A time of designer masks and collapsing sanity. For cursed houses and bad marriages. For multiplayer bloodbaths and witch fog visions that feel like nightmares drifting in through an open window. So tonight, we're walking straight into one of those weeks where horror splinters in every direction at once. We have a Wall Street monster who smiles better than he feels. A haunted house remake that hit hard at the box office, a late-career Barbara Crampton vampire gem that deserves louder love, and a co-op shooter that proves there's still fresh blood in round-based horror gaming. So join me as we take a look at the cursed calendar. Welcome back to This Week in Horror History. I'm your host Enrique Couto, and tonight we're talking about April 13th through 19th, a 7-day stretch that gave horror everything from prestige satire to franchise-adjacent haunted house shocks, from stylish indie vampirism to occult mood pieces and modern online-era terror. Coming up, a yuppie grin hiding a meat cleaver heart, a family moving into the wrong house in the worst possible way, a marriage that gets a lot more dangerous once appetite enters the picture, and a game that drops you into wave after wave of screaming Welsh nightmare fuel. Then we hit the deep-cut spotlight with a film that trades jump scares for dread, static, and witchcraft. April 14th, 2000, American Psycho hits theaters. Mary Harron's adaptation arrived like a razor blade tucked inside a business card. Christian Bale's Patrick Bateman gave horror one of its great modern monsters, a man so obsessed with surfaces that he becomes almost abstract, until the violence makes everything horribly real again. Financially, this one performed well relative to scale, grossing about $34.3 million worldwide on a reported $7 million budget. This was one that was a huge deal in the high school era I grew up in. Everybody either wanted to sort of be him or talk about how not like him they were. That is the staying power of the Patrick Bateman character. You can watch it right now on Amazon Prime Video or Prime Video with ads, as well as renting it on Apple TV or Fandango at home. On April 15th, 2005, the Amityville Horror opens wide. Not the original, though. The Ryan Reynolds remake landed right in the middle of the 2000s remake boom, and actually connected with audiences in a very big way. Critical affection was mixed, but commercial performance was not. It opened strong and finished with about $108 million worldwide against a $19 million budget. That's not just respectable, that is a clear studio win. And I think the Amityville Horror remake is a bit underrated. I think there's a lot of elements to really enjoy in it. And of course, I'm a big proponent of the belief that 2000s horror, especially of this era, ages surprisingly well. So if you haven't seen it before, or you've always said it was not as good as the original, which what can be, you can give it a watch right now on Prime Video with a subscription or Prime Video with ads, and it's also available to watch with ads for no money down at the Roku channel and Tubi TV. April 16th, 2021, Jakob's Wife arrives in theaters on demand and digital. This is one of those later-era horror titles that feels even better on a revisit because you can sense exactly what makes it special. Barbara Crampton. That's right, the Reanimator and From Beyond alumnus who easily wins horror fans over with her charm and girl-next-door demeanor. Over the last 10 years, she's had quite a big comeback in indie horror films with lots of memorable roles and has acted as a producer on most of them. This film takes vampire lore and fuses it with middle-aged frustration, marriage drift, and body liberation. Her co-star is another actor-turned-producer, Larry Fessenden, and he puts in a phenomenal performance as well. It's a lot of fun, and I'm not even that big of a horror comedy guy, but this one, it's messy, funny, bloody, and sharper than it might first appear. The theatrical gross is tiny, but that doesn't really matter because the real audience was found from a hybrid release taking advantage of video on demand and, later on, AMC Plus and Shudder, which is how I discovered it. So, if you want to check it out, well, I think we just gave away the lead. You can watch it on AMC Plus or Shudder, or rent it wherever you rent your horror movies. April 18th, 2024. Sker Ritual launches in full. Wales Interactive took the eerie folklore DNA of Maid of Sker and spun it into a round-based cooperative survival shooter. That is a risky pivot to say the least, but it gave players a horror game that feels old school in structure while still carrying a distinctive identity. If you miss the ritualized rhythm of surviving just one more wave with your friends, this one absolutely belongs on your radar. It can be found on Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation, so happy surviving. Isn't it funny how that's the kind of thing that we find fun? We spend our entire human history avoiding dying and having an easier life so that we can watch movies and play games where we pretend that everything's a lot harder than it really is. Huh. Sorry, got a little philosophical. Tomorrow, Wednesday on WeeklySpooky, we present a brand new terror tale from Bruce Haney. Jenny thinks something is wrong with her house. At first, it's little things. A cabinet door opening by itself, that cold, crawling feeling that someone is standing just behind you. But then the kitchen comes alive. Doors begin popping open one by one, and then all at once. And that is only the beginning. Because in her study sits a painting she doesn't remember creating. A haunting image of a woman in white, surrounded by old books, strange rooms, and reflections that shouldn't be there. The longer she looks at it, the more it changes, and the more it changes, the more it feels like something inside it is looking back. Tomorrow on WeeklySpooky, we bring you I Painted a Witch, a creepy, clever nightmare about art, haunting, and the horrifying moment you realize the thing in the picture may already be in the house with you. So don't miss it. When we come back, we head to Salem for a film that did not want to play by mainstream horror rules. It wanted atmosphere, repetition, dream logic, and the feeling that evil could just drift across the radio dial and settle inside your apartment walls. Welcome back, my spookies. Let's get weird. Our deep cut spotlight tonight takes us back to April 19th, 2013, when The Lords of Salem opens in limited release. We're focusing on this tonight because it's exactly the kind of horror history title that keeps getting argued over, reevaluated, and reclaimed. Rob Zombie had already built a reputation on aggression, grime, brutality, ugliness, noise. I mean, his Halloween film and the sequel are very gritty, very in the vein of later Texas Chainsaw Massacre films than Halloween. So, when the Lords of Salem arrived, a lot of people seemed to expect another blunt force nightmare. Instead, what they got was a hazy, deliberate, almost narcotic piece of folk horror that cared less about body count than mood. Sherry Moon Zombie plays Heidi, a Salem radio DJ, who receives a record from a mysterious group called the Lords. From there, the movie slides into visions, repetition, inherited violence, and the idea that a city can be spiritually haunted by the stories it tells about itself. It's not a fast-paced film. It's also not a tidy film, but that is exactly why it has lasted so long. It feels like a bad dream where the soundtrack is the trigger. Commercially, this one was not a hit, roughly $1.5 million worldwide on a reported $1.5 million budget, released in limited fashion, making it more of a cult underperformer than a theatrical breakout. But the value of a movie like this is not opening weekend domination. It's the afterlife, and the Lords of Salem has one. Over time, fans who want atmosphere over hand-holding have kept coming back to it. And in the context of Rob Zombie's career, it may just be the purest example of him following a mood instead of a market. If you want to give it a watch or a revisit, well, it's pretty easy actually. You can head to Prime Video and watch it with your subscription, or head to Tubi TV, Pluto TV, the Roku channel, or Plex to watch it free with ads. And of course, it's rentable on Apple TV and Fandango at home. And now let's take a look back at some horror-related birthdays. 4 faces tied to this exact week on the calendar. First up, born on April 13th, 1950, is Ron Perlman. Hellboy is fantasy superhero territory, sure, but Perlman has always carried monster energy, and genre fans know how often he turns up where things get dark, violent, or gloriously strange. Of course, I'll always respect his work in one of my personal favorite 90s horror films, Sleepwalkers. So happy birthday, Ron Perlman. Born on April 13th, 1976, Jonathan Brandis. For a certain generation, mine included, he is forever linked to Stephen King's It, and that alone is enough to earn a place in This Week every single year. Jonathan Brandis, we wish you a happy birthday, and you are very, very missed. Born on April 14th, 1977, we have Sarah Michelle Gellar. Buffy alone would lock this in, but then you stack on I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream 2, and The Grudge, and suddenly you're looking at one of the defining genre faces of her era. Happy birthday, Sarah Michelle Gellar. And finally, born on April 14th, 1996, Abigail Breslin. From Signs to Zombieland to Maggie to Final Girl, she's quietly built a horror resume with way more bite than a lot of people give her credit for. But we are happy to give it. Happy birthday, Abigail Breslin. This week for our Then and Now, then in this week of horror history, you could watch the genre turn vanity into murder, real estate fear into box office gold, and old vampire mythology into a character study about a woman refusing to disappear inside her own life. Now, horror still does that better than almost any genre. It keeps mutating to match whatever makes people anxious right now. Identity, domestic life, tech dependence, social performance, group survival. The costume may change, but the nerves stay the same. For our weekly recommendation, we have Green Room, which began its release run on April 15th, 2016. Jeremy Soliner's punk survival nightmare. It's lean, vicious, and incredibly good at making every bad decision feel both avoidable and inevitable. It's not supernatural, but it absolutely feels like horror. Trap a group in the wrong place with the wrong people, and that's enough. It made only about $3.8 million worldwide on roughly a $5 million budget, so financially it was more of a cult favorite than a breakout hit. But its reputation has only grown. In fact, I saw it in the theater 3 times because I couldn't believe what a mind-blower it was. And I was already a huge fan of Jeremy Soliner's other films, Murder Party and Blue Ruin. This one knocked my socks off, and the internet buzz, people were talking about it in such mass, with such positive things to say, that I'm still shocked as I read this that it only made $3.8 million worldwide, because everyone I knew seemed to go and see that one. Plus, you get to see Captain Picard himself, Patrick Stewart, in a role no one's ever seen him do before or since. If you want to give Green Room a revisit or a first-time watch, I really do recommend that you check it out. It's available to stream right now with your Netflix subscription, and you can also, of course, rent it at Amazon Prime Video, Fandango at Home, and Apple TV. That's it for this week in horror history. If you like your horror with dates attached, come back next Tuesday and we'll do it all again. Don't forget, tomorrow on Weekly Spooky, we'll have a brand new terror tale from Bruce Haney for you to enjoy. Then on Friday, Cutting Deep into Horror is back, talking about Creep, a film that if you've never watched it, you're going to want to check it out. It's on Netflix right now, and I do recommend you give it a watch. And then, of course, on Sunday, Unknown Broadcast slips into the feed again, and I still don't know what it is or where it comes from, but you all seem to really enjoy it. So, until next week, I've been Enrique Couto reminding you that our days are numbered, because that's how we tell them apart.